KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from the critique of the short story through to line edits on full-length novels. We also offer assistance on generating writers' bios for your websites. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks. Well, happy Thursday evening. That's right. We've almost made it to Friday. One more day between you, us, and a weekend. Except if you're anything like me, you pretty much work all weekend anyway. So what difference does it really make? Can I go cry in my beer now? Hey, Jen, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Just watching the insanity unfold that is this presidency and a Republican Congress.
Sadly, all of a sudden, my mic started trying to mute itself. I think I have a gremlin in the house. All right. Anyway, so there have been a lot of not so great things going on in the news. We'll be talking about some of those tonight. We have a pretty packed show tonight. We'll be talking about the situation in Rockville. We'll be talking about the fact that finally somebody leaked some information that actually proves that maybe Trump wasn't so crazy when he talked about being wiretapped after all, even if it was a poor choice of words. And also we'll be talking about the AHCA and its basically stall out today. Because, they realized they didn't have the votes. Now Trump has come out and announced that they're going to vote on it tomorrow come hell or high water. I don't think the Freedom Caucus is going to have anything to do with Obamacare 2.0. I don't know what kind of deals he's going to be trying to work late at night behind closed doors, whatever he's going to have to do to try to pull out the stops. But I don't think he's going to find the folks, because there are too many of us that are contacting our representatives and saying, "Hey, this is not what we sent you here for. We didn't send you here for Trump care. We didn't send you here for Obamacare Light, Obamacare 2.0, whatever you guys want to call it. We sent you here to make this monstrosity go away, and by that we meant kill it with fire."
Nice. They didn't appear to get the message. And I find it kind of interesting. I saw a lot of things on my feed today on Twitter of people that are pretty firmly in the Trump camp and kind of wiggle around to defend him as best they can, no matter which way he goes, and then tell me I'm not conservative if I don't do the same. Well, those conservatives have been, for the better part of today, vowing to vote out congressmen who don't vote for Trump care, aka Obamacare Light. And I'm thinking, what? Are you kidding? And they're like, no, they need to go. They need to get out now. They're obviously, not Republican, not doing what the president wants. Well, that's not what they're there for. They're not there to do what the president wants. They're there to do what their constituents want, what they voted for. And most of these, particularly Republican congressmen, were voted in because people wanted to repeal Obamacare. And even if some did agree on replacing it, they certainly aren't happy with replacing it with this. So please don't say that you're a conservative or call me not one, because I am in great support of the Freedom Caucus for standing up and, making sure that those of us that are, not happy with this updated version of the healthcare bill, that our voices are heard.
Speaking of the Freedom Caucus, they stood up like a boss today. I don't imagine it actually was quite this cool, but this is kind of what it reminded me of in my head.
We've made too many compromises already, too many retreats. Not again. The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
Sorry, it's two of my favorite actors ever getting really pumped up, but it just, as soon as they started talking about the fact that they knew that they didn't have the votes, I was like, finally, the Freedom Caucus stood up. Because I was worried about them, because they've been talking about this for a while now and kept trying to tell people, we know they don't have the votes. But then there were people that started talking about the fact that they were kind of trying to wiggle some things in and get people to change their minds based on some minor changes, etc. So they honestly thought they had the votes today. They really did. That's why they went ahead and tried to schedule the vote. And then they realized they didn't, so...
Yeah, obviously they didn't. I don't know. Did you see any of Ryan? I mean, he looked pretty worn and weary. I think that this has kind of been, I think it's been a long few days for them on this. And, Trump comes out and says basically that, like, if they don't vote on Friday, if they don't vote tomorrow or it fails, then he's done with health care. What does that even mean? Then he's just done with it. Like, he won't have a part in it and let Congress actually do their job and them put forth a bill, and he won't be a part of it. I'd prefer that, actually. But it seems a little like pick up my toys and go home because I didn't get my way. Stampy foot. I don't know. I guess that's kind of par for the course for him, but I just thought it was funny that it was like, and reports say that POTUS will, if they don't get a vote on Friday or if it fails to pass, then POTUS is done with health care. Okay.
Oh, darn.
Whatever, dude.
The horror. But anyway, the whole temper tantrum, stampy foot, I'm thinking that may have something more to do with you having a 3-year-old. Because I think you kind of see things from that perspective.
Also, I have to take potty breaks. My husband actually tells this funny story about how they were having some sort of like group meeting that was lasting hours, and people were at various points needing to take a restroom break or go get a drink of water or something. And he stood up and said, it didn't even cross my mind. I just stood up and said, I got to go potty. And everybody started laughing. He's like, obviously I have a 3-year-old, because the first thing that came to my mind was, gotta go potty.
Nice. So
he's like, I'm an idiot.
So, I just, I know he doesn't listen. I mean, we have some folks that listen, but as far as I know, Speaker Ryan has never listened to this show yet. I am still going to ask a question from him to America.
Look, sister, is any of this filtering through that little blue bonnet of yours?
Because we're just starting to wonder, are you figuring this out yet? Because we don't want this crap. Just saying.
Awesome. We really don't. We're done. We're sick of it. And let's go back to the whole thing about political suicide. And maybe it would be political suicide to just completely repeal and not do anything else, which I find hard to believe that nothing else would be done. I think we can do plenty of things to reform, the healthcare industry and insurance industry without having to actually put in, bills for healthcare that require certain things and that mandate certain things. But so, maybe it would be political suicide to just absolutely do nothing. But I think it's kind of also political suicide, at least on the Republican side, for these Republicans to put something up like this and to try to shove down our throats something that is so very obviously against what most of us voted them into office for and voted Trump into office for, to be quite frank.
Well, I only have one thing to say about the people that voted Trump into office because they thought he was supposedly going to repeal Obamacare. You obviously were not listening, because the man specifically said he wanted his own version of socialized medicine because the government was going to have to pay for it. So for those of you that are just starting to wake up, welcome to the party, because we've been trying to tell you for 2 years this is what the guy wanted. That's why he's mad that all of a sudden conservatives are standing up, and he's like, well, if this doesn't go the way I want, I'm just going to take my toys and go back to... Well, it probably actually won't go back to the White House. It'll probably go back to Mar-a-Lago, which is where he spends most of his weekends. Which, this is off topic, but something that has annoyed the crap out of me ever since he took office. Does anybody remember how much he complained about how often President Obama was away from the White House and doing, still campaigning, not in the White House, not actually working? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, I guess... Oh, I don't know. Do as I say, not as I do. I mean, don't they all kind of get like this when they're there? I don't know. I do kind of wonder how much of this is, really true. But he really went on and on about Obama on the golf course. So you better bet that they're going to be keeping a running total of how many games he plays. So if he doesn't think that that's fair or doesn't want it to be known, then he should just stop.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's not even rounds of golf. We're talking about the fact that the dude takes like a whole Secret Service detail and his entire family down to South Florida on a golf course that he owns every friggin' weekend. Not to mention the fact that, he actually called Obama the campaigner-in-chief because that was pretty much all he said he did for his entire presidency. Trump has already been holding campaign-style rallies, and he's barely been in office a little over 2 months. He just did another one the other day. Why are you out holding campaign-style rallies? You told us when you got elected you were never going to leave the White House because there was always going to be work to do. You wouldn't be one of these presidents out running campaign-style rallies and trying to fluff up crowds. You were actually going to be getting work done. You wouldn't be jetting off somewhere every other weekend like the Obamas, yet now you are. You actually... And another thing that honestly annoys me, and I know it's probably just me overreacting, but I actually heard him refer to Mar-a-Lago as the White House South once. I wanted to reach through the TV and punch him in the nose. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah. Well, I kind of always want to, so
well,
there's that.
see, I've actually really been trying hard to give the man the benefit of the doubt. But in between this fiasco with healthcare and the fact that he's spending all of this money every weekend to pack up and go to his golf course in Florida, when he told us that, there's too much work to be done, I won't be one of these presidents that goes jet setting when I'm, on the weekends, all this other stuff that he said. I have a problem with that because you're telling everybody else how broke we are. How much money are we spending to send you down to Florida every weekend?
Right. And that's where it becomes a different thing. So before, he could say that it was really on his own dime and everything. Now that you're POTUS and you're involved with the government, it does come out of the taxpayer's pocket because the way that you travel is no longer now your own. You are not your own, really. And everything concerns the public and the public's money. So it's a little different than when, he used to be running offices in New York and he'd just jet down on his private jet or whatever to Florida to play for a day and jet right back in time to be back in the offices before anybody else was. And nobody cared and none the wiser for it and didn't miss a day of work for it. But now it's an entire ordeal, whether he goes on a work day or not. And let's think about it. When is the president not on a work day? It's always a work day for the president of the United States. They're the leader of the free world. Not that they aren't entitled to some breaks and some relaxation time, but this seems to be starting out fairly excessive.
And it's, this is when the rationalizations that were coming from the left are now going to start coming from the right. But Rick, in this day and age, he can basically do his job from anywhere in the world because he's always electronically connected to pretty much anything and everything that he needs. I get that, but how much money are we spending? Because that was our harping point when Obama was spending hours upon hours upon hours on golf courses and jetting off to go meet with Jay-Z and all these other people. And yet now we have a president who flies down to his own private resort every weekend going to Florida, and very few people say a word. I'm tired of the double standards. I think that's my biggest problem is I'm really, 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 as I get older, getting more and more fed up with the do as I say and not as I do. Because that's something that I spent a lot of America Off the Rails last night talking about, because that same thing has been happening in my state here. We have an entire legislature that has been embroiled in scandal after scandal after scandal for the last several months because it's become a whole round of do as we say, not as we do. And I'm fed up with it because it seems like national level, state level, once somebody's been in power long enough, and sometimes apparently even only within a few months, they suddenly develop this whole idea of, well, I'm the boss, screw you. I have a problem with that because technically we're supposed to be the boss. And I thought he understood that because that's what he kept saying. I'm doing this job for the American people. I'm taking this job because I want to make America better. That's great. But you're spending an awful lot of money in your leisure time. Somebody had asked him about Camp David because a little known fact is we are still actually funding to keep Camp David fully operational because not only is it supposed to be kind of the relaxation spot for the president during off hours as far as weekends and stuff, it's actually a fully functional facility. So we're spending millions of dollars a year keeping that running. And Trump's biggest reaction to that was, well, I'm going to go down here because, yeah, if you actually got to see Camp David, you'd want to be here about 5 minutes, too.
That's funny. Well, I think that I just think that, like you said, we're supposed to be the boss. And while we know that that's not truly practical, theoretically, that's the idea. And it just, I don't know. I don't think there's much more to be said on it other than that for someone that harps so loudly on Obama about the golfing, he's not doing himself any favors.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably going to be about my only harp lately with Trump is in between that and the now AHCA, which is not what we sent Republicans to Congress for. But there is some interesting stuff going on in between the Gorsuch nomination and the fact that someone has actually come out now and said that they are pretty sure that there has been Trump team members that were surveilled. I have some audio from Schumer on his take on how the Supreme Court should be functioning during this presidency. Now, as I play this clip, everyone who's listening, I want you to think back and imagine what the outcry would have been if the following words were spoken by a Republican during the Obama presidency. It'll take a second to queue up here because I didn't have it ready.
It is so clear that at this moment in our history, our democracy requires a judge who is willing to rule against this president. This administration seems to have little regard for the rule of law and is likely to test the Constitution in ways it hasn't been challenged in decades. It's absolutely the case that this Supreme Court will be tried in ways that few courts have been tested since the earliest days of the Republic, when constitutional questions abounded.
Yeah, that was actually uttered by Chuck Schumer on this in the well of the Senate.
I'm sorry. What? What? That's. I mean, after the 8-year presidency we just went through, what?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not sure I get it either.
Our last president got sued by more governors on constitutional grounds than almost all other presidents combined. But okay.
But if it makes
you feel,
but if it makes you feel any better, due to this whole surveillance thing we have going on, we have some audio from Chucky Schumer standing in front of his mirror getting dressed every morning.
Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Who said illegal surveillance wouldn't be useful?
I love that. That fits so perfectly.
Who said illegal surveillance wouldn't be useful? Oh, man. But yeah, so we actually have a... there was a member of... I have the audio here somewhere. Hang on, I'm going to have to find it because now I can't remember his name. Let's see, hang on. Actually, is that the one I'm looking for? That is not the one I'm looking for, but that will still work.
I have confirmed that additional names of Trump transition team members were unmasked.
So this is from Nunez, who's actually a Republican, I believe, out of California. He's actually part of the group that's been looking into the whole Russian connection, surveillance, etc. And some interesting things have been happening over the last few days. That wasn't actually the clip I was looking for, but it's still a good segue into the topic. Because he actually broke protocol. He's not supposed to do what he did. I believe it was it yesterday or the day before when he basically held a press conference and said, by the way, I'm pretty sure these things have actually happened. He wasn't supposed to do that. Actually, you know what? I have a quote from him. The joys of actually having a professional Facebook page again. I can keep up with things a little bit better. Give me just 1 second. House Intelligence Committee Chair Devin Nunes, Republican California, briefed reporters on classified information that showed members of the intelligence community were collected incidentally in communications while they were part of the Trump transition team. During legal surveillance operations, Chair Nunes said none of the reports mentioned Russia or Russians. He also said it was possible that then President-elect's communications were captured by their surveillance as well. See, the protocol was when he discovered something like that, he was supposed to take it back to the committee and let them hash it out, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. This guy went straight to the press. So I actually posted this on my Facebook my professional Facebook page the other day. A couple of people have been kind of talking back and forth with me on it, and their biggest issue is the fact that he broke protocol. And I'm just thinking, well, right now he's probably not even sure who he can trust, because he's just basically found out that parts of this government were actually either directly or inadvertently spying on the transition team for this newly elected president of the United States. That is bothersome to me. It really is. And, I mean, Trump may have done his usual bull in a china shop approach of letting folks know about it, but obviously he knew something, or he wouldn't have started yelling on Twitter about being wiretapped.
Right. I'm not sure, how all of this lays out. I mean, obviously, leaking things is bad. It's not a good way to go about things, like you said. There were things being said that simply weren't true, and there were things being hidden from the public that, I don't know. It's hard for me to say without knowing full story, like whether or not we deserve to know or not. There's a group of the public that believes we deserve to know everything, right? And I'm not in that. I don't fall under that. And then there's the group that says, well, kind of need to know basis. And then there's the people that would like to be just pretty much blissfully in the dark, in ignorance all the time.
Just treat me like a mushroom.
Yeah. I'm somewhere in the middle of the first and the second. I think we probably should know some things that I think there are some that are classified that it seems kind of ridiculous that they are, and that we probably should be privy to. And then I think there are a lot of things that, absolutely for not only our own protection, but the protection of our government, for foreign nationals, for our military and other things like that, that should not be public knowledge and be put in the paper every day. I think there comes to be some stuff like this where it has been readily questioned over and over and over. Investigations have turned up nothing. Committees are not being called to investigate further, where these questions should just be answered for what they are. And, like I said, we don't have the full picture, so I don't know if that's exactly the case here, but it kind of seems like it. And so, maybe instead of him having to go about it this way, maybe we should have just been told, well, yeah, actually there was some surveillance going on, and no, it didn't turn up anything. And no, we're not going to tell you why, because that breaks, some sort of, hierarchy rules of classification. But at least just say, well, the intuition was right, and all of these rumors that have been going around were correct, but it was for a different reason, and nothing to worry, nothing to see. I don't know. I know that'll just bring up more questions also, but it seems like there's been a lot, much ado about nothing to cover up all of this crap that is eventually going to get leaked anyways, because we're in the ages of leaking. I mean, everybody leaks, and it's crazy.
The interesting thing about this, though, isn't necessarily the leaks. What has come to light now, though, is that, because I don't know how much of this that you know about how it's supposed to work when Americans are incidentally caught up in foreign surveillance, but there's a process called masking, where basically anyone who is an American citizen who's caught up in that type of surveillance, their identity is supposed to be protected to the point where basically pretty much everything about them is supposed to be completely redacted unless they're actually part of the overall investigation. So the exact opposite has occurred here with these leaks, and that's when I played the other little short clip just a little bit ago when he was referring to the fact that they were unmasked. This one right here,
I have confirmed that additional names of Trump transition team members were unmasked.
That is not only a violation of protocol, that is actually against the law. For not only for the information to have been leaked in the first place, but for it to have been leaked in an unredacted fashion is unheard of. These people's names and identities were required to be protected because they were not a part of the actual surveillance.
Right. Well, and as I understand it from several things I read from, members of the intelligence community, is that not only should it not have been able to be released that way or leaked that way, but that from the very beginning of it, basically of some of these things being transcribed, that they should have been redacted almost immediately so that as they passed along to further hands, they would have stayed redacted. So it would have always stayed with the original source as opposed to continuing to be passed along only to be redacted later. That typically they redact from the beginning because of their, they are American citizens caught up in all of this. And so they're redacted from the beginning so that no matter whose hands it passes along the way, they're already gone. And that's part of the other, whoa, what was going on here, that wasn't already the case. I'm trying to think. One of the places that I read that, I read about some of that was yesterday in the Foreign Times, where a former intelligence officer was just touched on that briefly. And then something else came across my feed today. I was actually trying to find it so I could cite it. But they were also talking about being marked and unmarked. And that was one of the things that he was like, it never should have gotten to the point that it did without it being marked. It should have been marked the whole time. So how did this even happen? That kind of goes to that kind of lends to some of the conspiracies about, was something more nefarious going on here against the Trump team? I don't know.
Well, I mean, pardon me, for those of you that may want to, you might want to adjust your tinfoil hat in the moment, or for the moment. But I'm going to take this a step further, because let's not forget, this was all happening while President Barack Obama was still president of the United States. Whether he knew or he didn't, whether he knew or he did not know, he was still ultimately the deciding authority for the country at that point in time. And going back to, I believe it was Harry Truman, who basically squarely said the buck stops here. Ultimately, if it's found that things were done in an illegal fashion, I think that it is possible to make a case against the entire Obama administration, and there are actually people that are starting to make noise about that now. Now, whether it will go anywhere or not, I honestly don't have an answer for you. But with what we're starting to understand about the different layers of protection and other things that have been basically bypassed all the way around for this information to have been as readily available as it was, there was something somewhere that caused that to happen, and it had to come from somewhere pretty high up. Because like you said, and it was something that I was about to say, if you didn't touch on it, as soon as those people were in the equation, any information about them was supposed to be redacted before it left anywhere and started being passed around to anyone. So the fact that it made it through multiple layers of people and information sources and everything else, and all of that was still there, to me, that had to come from somewhere pretty high up. Not going to say it was Obama exactly, but either way, it's still his administration at that point in time.
Yeah, it's extremely suspicious for sure.
All right, so I think we have actually blown through a break because we kind of got on. Well, actually, we're not too far off, but we do need to take a break real quick. This is Jen and Rick. We will be back right here on KLRNradio.com here in about 3 minutes. Don't go away. We've still got lots of stuff left to talk about.
Round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
For your family, we're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from the critique of the short story through to line edits on full-length novels. We also offer assistance on generating writers' bios for your websites. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
All right, here we go.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
That moment when you thought you had the bumper music loaded and you had the intro loaded instead. Hey, folks, we're back from commercial break. Yay, it's been a fun day here. All right, so still lots of things going on in the news. We have some audio that I want to make sure that we get to. Some of it's a bit longer than I usually like to play, but I kind of think it's necessary. We're going to switch gears and start talking about the issue that just happened recently in Rockville, Maryland, and some of the reactions. This one's a little bit longer. I'm going to let it play in its entirety.
This is a horrific case, obviously. It happened in Rockville, Maryland, and is now going national. It was a question today in the briefing at the White House. Here is Press Secretary Sean Spicer and his reaction to this earlier today. Watch.
This young woman, in particular, fought to come to this country legally because of the freedoms and the treasures of this nation. And to think that this kind of tragedy would occur to someone who's personally endured that kind of struggle to come to this nation and then face this is reprehensible. And it is not who we are as a country. There's so many facets of this case that deserve question. Why was there, I think he was 17 or 18 years old. 18, thank you. And how does that person get put into the 9th grade? There are so many issues that come up in this case. I will leave it to authorities to get through, but I think that we are in the early stages of this, and there's a lot that needs to get addressed with respect to this case in particular.
So here with me now is Kimberly Allman. She is the mother of a student at Rockville High School. Kimberly, welcome. Thank you very much for talking with us tonight. I know it's a tough time for all of you.
It truly is, and thank you very much, Martha, for helping to shine a light on what's going on here in our community. My son happens to be a student here at Rockville, and I've had 2 other children go through here. I'm happy to be here tonight because you're shining a light on what's going on and how it affects everyone. Kimberly, what is it that you want to know?
Yeah. Let me just start with a question. In terms of the reaction of the parents in that meeting tonight, what were some of the things that they were asking? What do they want to know about how a 17 and an 18-year-old end up in a 9th grade in a situation where they can perpetrate this kind of crime, alleged crime, against a 14-year-old girl?
Well, it's amazing. Over the last couple of days, as all of us parents have found out more details about what's happened, we've all been just absolutely shocked because we need to know how this happened, but not to place blame on the school system or anyone else. We can do that later. We want to make sure that we know how to prevent these situations in the future. Our governor came out today and he used very strong words. He used the words that I need to hear and so many of the parents here need to. If you look behind me and you see these parents here in this parking lot here, Governor Hogan used the words that I want to hear, not the washed down language that we heard from the last administration and
what did he say?
The blame where it is. He used the word illegal immigrants. He wanted to know why these men were here with our children. That's the problem. If we free up our resources for so many different things by moving these people out, you see, people are very excited about what's going on. But if we use our resources to move these children out, the illegal immigrants out of our school systems and our communities, we'll have those resources to use in so many ways.
I understand, Kimberly. Thank you.
My child's here in this school, and it's so important.
You know, I mean, there's no reason why an 18-year-old who's been detained by ICE, why the school doesn't know that, and they're not aware of that, and can't make sure that that student doesn't pose a threat to other students. You know, you talk about safe spaces in education. It seems the very most basic element of a safe space would be for a 14-year-old to be able to go to school and not get raped in the bathroom by an illegal immigrant. Thank you very much, Kimberly. We'll be following the story, and we thank you for being here tonight.
All right, so there you have some of the reaction from some of the parents in Rockville. Actually, I feel like I've been doing a lot of the talking, so I think I'm going to let you take lead on this one, if you don't mind.
Well, so this whole situation is just sickening, right? It really is just unbelievable. But unfortunately, this is kind of the reality, and not just here, but in many other places with the, the expansion of these sanctuary cities, which of course Trump has said that he'll get rid of. Even here in Texas, Governor Abbott has put forth an initiative to try to stop sanctuary cities even in Texas, because what we're finding is that these areas, obviously kind of harbor these criminals, but not even that. Even before they're criminals, it's that they may have been caught and released for various other crimes, whether it was minor or not, traffic violations, whatever. Normally these things would go on record, and they're not being reported to the area precincts. The precincts are not having to cooperate with ICE. ICE isn't cooperating with them. Anyways, it's just a big old mess. And a lot of people have been asking, like, how were these kids in school, the 17 and 18-year-old boys who were enrolled as freshmen in high school, and why do we even have illegal immigrants in school? And of course, this is a question that is debated a lot, and a lot of people don't like for funding to go towards it. But in Plyer v. Doe, a 1982 Supreme Court decision, they basically decided that education has a fundamental role in maintaining the fabric of our society and provides the basic tools by which individuals might lead economically productive lives to benefit us all. Therefore, it violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment if you don't allow them in. So that's why they're there. Then it seems as if, these kids were denied bail. They were seen as such a flight risk that they were denied bail. And I haven't gotten a clear answer on it. It seems like at least one of them has had a run-in with the law before. There's not like a whole lot on it, but definitely these are two that might have been released never to be seen again had they been released on bail. And it's just a horrific situation, and I don't think anybody is saying that this is the case with all illegal immigrants. Surely it's not. You can tell from, how many are actually in this country that don't commit these kinds of violent crimes. But this whole situation is just completely horrific, and in a lot of people's mind, including my own, preventable. But we're afraid to do anything. And even today, you kind of have the principal basically acting as if people are racist if they are questioning the policies of the school and overall immigration policies of this country. And that's just so sad to see, to kind of put that back on the victim or the community, when really this is about people who break the law and come here and send their children to our schools, and kind of the unruliness that has become of that.
Sorry, I was having a discussion while I'm live on the air because I'm being yelled at for playing Fox Audio. So.
Oh. Well, anyways, it's I just can't even imagine what this poor girl and her family, and now that it is national news, I mean, they are going to be hounded relentlessly over this from all sides.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what to add at this point other than the whole situation stinks. I mean, we're talking about somebody who was legally an adult who was in a 9th grade classroom. I have a problem with that because the children in a 9th grade classroom are typically 14, 15 years old. Now, I understand that, they may or may not have some sort of predetermined right to an education, but is there any reason to have an 18-year-old boy in a 9th grade classroom, period? Whether they're here legally, illegally, whatever the case may be, because we're talking about an 18-year-old man sitting in a classroom with 14, 15-year-old girls. What did they think was going to happen?
Yeah, and this is often, I mean, this is something that is talked about kind of a lot in regards to high schools and whether they should even be, should be 14 to 18 anyways, regardless of the same classroom and say, grade, just being in the same school on the same campus. I mean, I remember some neighborhood friends of mine, he turned 18 right before his senior year, and she was 15 turning 16 in her sophomore year, and they'd grown up next door to each other. They were kind of the boy and girl next door, and they were dating. And the parents, in order to protect the son, both parents wrote notes allowing them to be in a car together, or if there was any sort of situation that came up, so that he couldn't be automatically, accused of this because it looks bad, this 18-year-old with this 15-year-old, even though she was days away from being 16. Still, it just it sounds and looks bad. So is it ever really appropriate for all of these these age groups to be in the same? Because there is such a big difference between 13, 14 and like 17, 18, 19. There just is. But I think that one of the things that I was reading about was how Maryland could get worse. There's actually a bill up that could kind of have influenced this. It says the consequences of policies that led up to this rape are not enough for open border extremists. So on Monday evening, just 4 days after the brutal rape made the news, the Maryland House of Delegates voted 83 to 55 to pass House Bill 1362, an anti-detainer bill that would prohibit state and local law enforcement from coordinating with ICE or other immigration enforcement when illegal immigrants are arrested on other charges. Governor Larry Hogan quickly promised to veto this bill if it passes the Senate. However, the Democratic majority in Annapolis only lacks 2 votes to override any veto. If this law passes, Maryland would join California, Colorado, and Connecticut in outright banning state and local law enforcement to work with agencies like ICE. Are you kidding me? And this is what's the problem. See, this is already policy in most of these sanctuary cities. It's not all codified in law, but it is actually, this is kind of the unspoken rules. This is how it goes. If someone gets arrested for something, they don't report it nationally. They don't report it to immigration services. They don't report it to ICE. And so these people are released back into society, and maybe they pay some fine to the county, or, maybe they serve 10 days in jail to offset their, $6,000 fine or something, but they don't. None of this is reported to immigration services, and they are released back into the community as if nothing has happened. This is how you end up with people with 3, 4, and 5 DWIs that aren't even citizens. This is how you end up with people with multiple robbery or assault charges that aren't even citizens, and they are never even attempted to be deported because they do not correspond with immigration services. It is so ludicrous to me, and I'm so fed up with this. Just a hogwash. It's just absolute crap that this is even something to be argued about, and that states are wanting to pass laws to further separate the two, so that they can basically, allow these illegal citizens who are not citizens of their state. They're not citizens of this country. They're not citizens of their county. They're allowing these people to harm their own citizens and the American way of life by trying to protect them even further by not allowing their crimes to be reported to ICE or other immigration services. It is absolutely maddening.
Well, in this case, it goes even further because ICE was actually looking for one of the people that was involved in this particular situation, and nobody in the school was informed that ICE was looking for these particular people because of some of the sanctuary practices that had been adopted by that particular town. Now, a couple of other interesting things that have come out of this. There are now actually a handful of folks that used to call themselves liberals in that area that are now staunchly standing up for removing illegal immigrants and a lot of the what they used to call the abhorrent Trump immigration policies. Now suddenly that it's happening in their hometown, they're actually starting to pay attention, and they're like, wait, what? Huh? Man, maybe Trump wasn't so crazy after all. There actually was going to pull some audio from one of those earlier, but I didn't. Probably a good thing I didn't, because it's Fox News, which apparently is a no-no. Anyway, sorry, I'm still a little cranky. Now, as far as some other audio, this one is not from Fox News, by the way, before anybody starts yelling at me, and you know who you are. I actually have some audio from the governor of Maryland, and for once I think somebody actually stood up and said something properly. At least I don't think this is Fox News, so if it is, don't yell. Maybe. Eventually.
Not only have they refused to provide any information to us, but they've refused to provide it to the State Board of Education, who specifically requested more information. We want to know, exactly how this was allowed to happen. Why is an 18-year-old man in a 9th grade class with 13, 14-year-old girls? Why was his status not known to those folks? Why was he allowed to enter the country after they apprehended him for illegally crossing the border, both of them? So there's a lot of questions. I mean, I don't know the facts of it all yet. We're still gathering information. It appears as if this was part of the Obama unaccompanied minor kind of amnesty program, where they allowed these kids to come in. They sent them to Montgomery County with no one being provided any information. And then they're in school. Why is an 18-year-old going to school with 14-year-olds? How can it happen in the middle of the day in a school system? I mean, they apparently have video of the girl being dragged into the boys' bathroom. Where was the security? What precautions do they take when we have people part of the problem, according to the police department, is that these kids never had any record other than, entering the country illegally. They didn't have a police record, so they weren't aware that anything like this was going to happen. But there's many unanswered questions. We're trying to get to the bottom of it. Montgomery, again, as I said, Montgomery County government and the Montgomery County police are cooperating. The school system is not. It appears as if they have something to hide. So we're going to keep pressing. We're going to try to get to the bottom of it. This should never have been allowed to happen. We want to push Montgomery County to make sure that they clean up any problems they have so it can never happen again.
So that was actually Governor Hogan of Maryland. I like most of what he said, but I'm going to take issue with something, because as the governor of Maryland, isn't it ultimately your responsibility to determine what may or may not be going on at the state level as far as education and what type of protections may or may not be in place? I mean, I know that you guys probably leave a lot of that up to the school districts, but at the same time, it seems really weird for a governor of that state to be standing there going, what happened to security? Why weren't you're the governor? Why the hell don't you know the answer to that question?
Yeah, you definitely could say that a little bit. Then again, though, I mean, I think if these cities and these school districts have been the type that have been pulling away from, more regulatory standards because of their wannabe sanctuary status or whatever, I mean, they're making their bed here.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing, though. I mean, it's interesting hearing things like, well, as far as the police department knew, they really didn't have any other record. Well, except for the fact that they came into the country illegally. Why is that? Why has that suddenly stopped being enough? That's my problem. Because, and I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. For all of these people that are screaming that we need to have open borders and let anybody come into this country that wants to come in here, regardless of why they're coming, who they are, what it is they want to do, until you leave your doors and windows open at night every single night, I don't want to hear bupkis from you.
I mean, yeah, we have to protect our house.
I mean, and that's what this is, but the funny thing is, when I try to make that analogy, some of the hardcore open border people are like, well, that's different. How is it different? We're talking about the borders to a country. Think of the country as your house. So what you're saying is, it's okay if somebody sneaks in through a window in the middle of the night, raids your refrigerator, sits down at your kitchen table, makes themselves a sandwich, and starts eating you out of house and home because you've decided that it's okay for people to come into your house. Well, no, that's different. How is it different? This is where their argument always falls apart, because I'm like, okay, so do you lock your doors and your windows at night? Well, yeah. Then did they break into your house or did you let them in? Well, they broke in. But you're okay with people coming into the country no matter how they get here, so why does it matter if they come into your house? Well, that's not the same thing. And that's where it's always a logic loop for them, because when you try to push them to that point, that's always their answer. It's not the same thing. How is it not the same thing? We are legitimately talking about the fact that you and I and every other rational person pretty much on this planet that has access to door locks and window locks, we lock our doors at night and our windows at night, not because we hate the people that are outside of our homes, but because we love the people that are in our home. Because nobody goes to bed at night thinking, well, the unthinkable is going to happen and somebody's going to get in here and do something terrible. But we always know that there is a possibility that if we do not take precautions, something is going to happen. This is a glaring example of what a lot of us have been screaming about now for the last 8 years. This is an example of this is what happens when you leave the doors open at night and, it's an isolated incident. That's funny because anytime there's a shooting anywhere in this country, even though that is technically an isolated incident, if it can save the life of one child, then we should do something about gun violence. Well, if it can keep one little girl in Maryland from getting raped, maybe we should do something about illegal aliens.
But that would be logical consistency, and I don't know why you think that we should have to have that.
That deserves this.
Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Trying to get myself into a better mood. All right, so believe it or not, we are nearly about out of time. So as we do every single time we start wrapping up, why don't you remind folks of where it is that they can hang out with you when you are not on the radio with me?
Yeah, you can find me at Jay Homestead on Twitter, and come check out misfitspolitics.com.
And of course, you can follow along with me on Twitter at AOTR_host. Unfortunately, thanks to the fact that the original professional Facebook account I had is now attached to a completely defunct email service, I can no longer access said account, so I have started a new one. Feel free to follow along on Facebook if you want. Just search for Rick Robinson. It is actually a full-fledged profile, not a show page, so you'll have to shoot me a friend's request. That's all right. Just look for there's more than one Rick Robinson on there, so look for the one that specifically says Rick Robinson, and look for the picture of the little Bitmoji thing with the dude looks like he's standing on the cover of Time magazine. No, I don't have any delusions of grandeur. There's just like a million Rick Robinsons out there, so I was trying to make sure that mine stood out a little bit. And just shoot me a friend's request. We'll talk, we'll chat, we'll hang out. If you're old school, you can shoot me an email at rick@klrnradio.com. Until I see you folks again, which will be here in probably about 5 to 7 minutes, well, at least for America Off the Rails. But we'll be back again Tuesday night, starting over with the Jen and Rick Show next week, and probably have lots more in the news to talk about, and more liberal lunacy and craziness everywhere, I'm sure. And we didn't even really get a chance to talk about too much of the whole Supreme Court thing that's still going on, so I'm sure that'll probably still be going on next week, so we'll touch on it then. All right, folks, we are out. Take care. God bless. Good night. I will be back, hopefully, if I can get things lined out soon enough, here in about 5 minutes for America Off the Rails. Stay tuned.
Turn back now, you know I wouldn't if I could, 'cause I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.